Today we're going to be checking out several legendary feats of strength from the Bronze Era. If you're interested in learning about the limits of natural human strength, you came to the right video. While we can be sure that none of these lifters were using steroids, there are a couple considerations to keep in mind. Old school strongmen were usually performing for crowds, and many were known to use tricks or to exaggerate their strength. For this video, I did my best to pick respected strongmen who performed legitimate feats of strength. Just remember that they didn't have the judging standards we have today, and film cameras were extremely rare. So while I wouldn't feature anything here which I thought was fake, just make sure to consider the historical context and take everything with a grain of salt. Alright, the first person we're going to cover is Hermann Görner, a German strongman born in 1891. And yeah, go ahead, get your mustache jokes out the way now. Hermann was huge. Maybe we could even call him a Bronze Era mass monster. He was 6'1", and his weight fluctuated quite a bit, but from what I've read, his best performances were around 265 pounds body weight. In this photo, he's 245 pounds, and we can see he still had clearly visible abs. I think it's safe to say he was one of the most muscular lifters of the Bronze Era. So, what could all this muscle do? Well, Hermann actually has a world record lift which has not been beaten to this day. The heaviest right-handed deadlift. He first pulled 727.5 pounds unofficially on October 8, 1920. Then, on October 29th of that same year, he pulled 663.5 pounds officially on an Olympic barbell, and this record stands to this day as the heaviest one-arm deadlift of all time. It's even in the Guinness World Records. Larry Wheels actually attempted a one-armed pull of 675 pounds a couple years ago, but he failed the lift when his strap broke and he never attempted it again. As far as I'm aware, Hermann did his one-arm deadlift just using a hook grip, which is of course absolutely crazy. Sadly, I don't think there's any photos of this legendary deadlift, but instead I give you Hermann wrestling an elephant, and Hermann carrying 4 men and 2 barrels on one shoulder for a total weight of over 1,000 pounds. And here he is supporting a fully loaded car on his shoulders. In fact, his biography called Görner the Mighty contains 40 pages, dedicated to nothing other than cataloging his lifts. Unlike modern powerlifters or weightlifters who only specialize in a couple movements, Hermann and other strongmen of the time performed pretty much every lift you can imagine. Here are a couple that stand out to me. This is a photo of him supporting 16 men sitting on a plank with his feet. Apparently, he once performed this stunt with 20 men weighing a total of over 4,000 pounds. His best deadlift was 830 pounds. He also did a 391 pound clean and press and an amazing 440 pound two hands anyhow, which is a lift we'll cover a bit more in depth later in the video. This guy did so many crazy feats of strength, so I recommend you guys check out the book I mentioned before for more details. Next, we're going to be checking out Katie Brumbach, a strong woman born in Austria in 1884, though she was better known by her stage name Katie Sandwina, a large woman around 5'10" and over 200 pounds body weight. She was perhaps the most influential strong woman in history. There is a legend about how she got the name Sandwina. Apparently, Eugene Sandow challenged her to a weightlifting contest where she managed to lift 300 pounds overhead. But Sandow only managed to get the bar up to his chest, so after beating him, she adopted the name Sandwina, which was like the female version of Sandow. Now, as cool as that story sounds, sadly, it was most likely made up for publicity. as there is no real evidence of the contest ever happening. Nevertheless, Sandwina was no doubt among the strongest women of her era. She's listed in the 1984 Guinness Book of World Records for the heaviest overhead lift ever made by a woman, at 286 pounds. She performed this lift in 1911 using the continental style, meaning she could rest the bar on her body as it made its way up to her shoulders before she jerked it. The lift was so impressive that it wasn't matched by any woman for the next 73 years. Sandwina was a circus performer, and her act involved all sorts of crazy stunts, like shouldering a 600-pound cannon, bending iron rods, lifting her husband overhead with one arm, and supporting several people standing on a platform on her chest. Now let's take a look at Louis Cyr, a Canadian strongman born in 1863. I'm sure many of you have heard of him. At his peak, he weighed around 300 to 350 pounds at a height of 5'8". He is credited with many amazing feats and was one of the most influential figures in strongman history. Among his numerous lifts, here are the ones that stand out to me the most. In 1895, Louis performed a backlift totaling 4,337 pounds. He did this by having a group of men stand on a platform on his back. He could also lift an incredible 535-pound weight off the floor using just one finger. Here's a photo where he's about to resist the pull of 2 horses. And he supposedly even did this once with 4 horses, 2 on each side. This feat was witnessed by around 10,000 spectators. Louis held on even as the grooms cracked their whips to encourage the horses to pull harder. Louis also famously push-pressed a 273-pound dumbbell above his head with just one arm. Meanwhile, most of us can't even bench press a 273-pound barbell. This special, thick dumbbell is still used in strongman to this day. It's called the Cyr dumbbell. And you can watch how difficult it is for modern strongmen who aren't natural to perform this lift. It should give you an idea of just how impressive Louis was all the way back in the 19th century. Another legendary strongman was Louis Uni, also known as Apollon. He was born in France in 1862. At 6 foot 3 inches tall and weighing 280 pounds, Apollon would still be huge today. But back then he would have been a giant compared to the average Frenchman. His most famous feat of strength involves a special barbell which was really just 2 train wheels connected by their axle. This bar weighed 366 pounds and was especially difficult to lift because the axle was nearly 2 inches thick and had a smooth surface. Also, unlike a normal barbell, the wheels couldn't spin. This was such a difficult implement to lift that many even doubted whether Apollon himself was able to clean and jerk it overhead. While sadly there is no solid evidence of Apollon making the lift himself, nearly 4 decades later another French weightlifter named Charles Rigolot finally proved that it was in fact possible. He clean and jerked the same bar in Paris in 1930, which was still before steroids were invented. And we actually have photos of him doing it. This original bar was only ever successfully lifted by 2 other weightlifters. One was John Davis in 1949 and the other was Norbert Szymanski in 1954. Replicas of the bar continue to be popular among strongmen to this day. It's usually called Apollon's wheels or Apollon's axle. Now let's check out Arthur Saxon, another German strongman born in 1878. At a height of 5'10" and a body weight of only around 200 pounds, he's much lighter than the other strongmen we've covered so far, but that doesn't mean his lifts were any less impressive. Arthur rose to fame with his 2 brothers, Kurt and Hermann. The 3 of them formed the Saxon trio. Arthur was the oldest and strongest of the trio, and he performed several lifts which have not yet been matched even to this day. My favorite one is the 2 hands anyhow, a lift which I mentioned Hermann Görner performed with an impressive 440 pounds. Well, Arthur, even though he weighed 60 pounds less than Hermann, managed an unbelievable 448 pounds. As the name suggests, the goal of this movement is to use 2 hands to lift separate weights overhead, using any style. So Arthur did his unmatched 2 hands anyhow lift by first bench pressing a 336-pound barbell. And while he held the barbell overhead, he squatted down, picked up a 112-pound kettlebell with his other hand, cleaned it up to his shoulder, and pressed it overhead as well. But that's not all. Arthur Saxon also performed the heaviest bench press ever at 386 pounds. I mean, just think about how crazy that is for a second. A lot of us are deadlifting this kind of weight. Meanwhile, this guy is getting it above his head with 1 arm. You know, it's a shame that the bench press seems to have been mostly forgotten. It's a beautiful lift which requires tremendous skill and coordination. But once an athlete masters the bench press, they are able to lift significantly more weight than with any other single arm style. Finally, Arthur also performed the heaviest Arthur lift of all time, with the same 386 pounds as the bench press. This lift is named after him and basically involves cleaning the weight behind your back, rolling the bar up your back to your shoulders, and then jerking the bar overhead. Again, another very cool and technical lift which you almost never see people doing anymore. Thankfully, there are a couple guys here on YouTube keeping the Arthur lift and other old school strongman movements alive. So I do recommend you follow and support them if you're interested in the subject. To finish off the video, I want to throw out a couple rapid fire honorable mentions. And just like everything else we've covered, they are all from before 1935. Milo Steinborn once squatted over 550 pounds without a squat rack. So he had to pick the bar off the floor and rock it onto his back before squatting. I made a full video about Milo, so check it out if you're interested. Have you ever done weighted sit-ups? Well, check out this photo of Antone Matiesk lifting another person in a Roman chair. Absolutely unbelievable abdominal strength. Here's a photo of Alexander Zas carrying a horse. And finally, here is Gus Lesis supporting an 800-pound slab of rock while a large man smashes it with a sledgehammer. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys found this video interesting or inspiring. If you did, I recommend you check out this other video I made about a very weird strongman called the Mighty Atom. Also, a massive thank you to my supporters on Patreon, where you can sign up to get early ad-free access to these videos.